Hello, this is Justin Epstein, author of the top-selling book Super You and the senior minister of the Unity Center of New York City. Welcome to our live streaming service today. Today we have a special guest. Well, actually, he's our principal accompanist, and he's going to be playing for us and singing for us today, Dennis Buck. So I invite you to join us in singing our opening song, How Can I Serve Today?
Hello everyone, it's great to be back at Unity today. Please join me as we sing, How Can I Serve Today? How can I serve today, sweet Spirit? How can I serve today, O Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Who needs acceptance today, sweet Spirit? Who needs acceptance today, O Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Who needs compassion today, sweet Spirit? Who needs compassion today, O Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Who needs my kindness today, sweet Spirit? Who needs my kindness today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Who needs my love today, sweet Spirit? Who needs my love today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How can I serve today, sweet Spirit? How can I serve today, oh Lord? Speak in ways that I may understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Where you lead me, I will go. Where you lead me, I will go.
Our community highlights today are pretty simple. We'd like you to just go to our Facebook page and like us. Please like us. Now, the reason that's important is you'll begin to receive videos, other stuff from us. For instance, I'm doing a live Facebook broadcast every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 3 o'clock. And you'll be notified of that. You'll receive it and so on. So like us on Facebook, please. And also you can check out our website as well, where we have new information being posted. So please do that. And now let's enjoy an improvisation on Serenade for Strings by Dennis Buck. Thank you so much, Dennis. That was awesome. He is a really incredible piano player, isn't he? I'd like us to take a moment now to just, if you believe in our ministry and what we are helping people to do, to be uplifted and encouraged and inspired in these times, and you believe in the message, please support our ministry. You can do that by pressing the donate button if you're on the website, or following the links on Facebook or YouTube. And we appreciate your support for this ministry. And we'd like to go ahead now and bless our gifts and offerings by knowing together that divine love flowing through me blesses and increases all that I give and all that I receive. Together, divine love flowing through me blesses and increases all that I give and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, and so it is. Amen. Now we're going to prepare for a guided meditation, and we like to do that by singing a song that helps to bring our attention from the external world, and it begins to lift us up. The yogis talk about devotion and lifting up your heart, and then that energy can be used for the guided meditation. So I invite you to join us now. Dennis will lead us in the face of God.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. Love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of love.
Let's prepare now for the guided meditation. I invite you to sit upright as is comfortable for your body. And if you're sitting at home, you might want to sit in a chair that you can sit upright in, rather than lounging in a couch, although that's okay if you want to do that. It's important to have the spine upright, and so the energy can flow upward and you can begin to experience the peace, the presence of God within you. So now that we're sitting upright, let's begin to take a nice long cleansing breath and let your body relax. We have the intention of connecting with the superconscious level of our mind, where spirit is expressing in and as us, just like the ocean is expressing as a wave. And this process is helped by relaxing the body, letting go of tension, stress, or strain held in the body. And so we say to our feet, and our calves and our thighs. Relax and let go. And tune in. Become aware of those parts of your body, and as you suggest that they relax and let go, you might notice how they are releasing and relaxing and letting go. Letting go of unnecessary tension. And we become aware of the abdomen and the stomach, and we relax and we let go. We become aware of the buttocks, the pelvic area, and relax. Becoming aware of your hands and fingers, relaxing. Your arms and shoulders, your back and your chest, all letting go. Focus on the front and the back and the sides of your neck. Relax your neck. Let go. Some people find it helpful to bring their shoulders toward their head and then just to roll the neck around, just to let it relax in both directions. And become aware of your face, relaxing the muscles in your face, your forehead, your eyes, your cheeks, your ears, your lips, your tongue, your scalp. Just send the thought. Relax, relax, relax. Good. And now we're going to focus our attention on our breathing to help focus the mind and to calm the heart. To tune into that higher place that's within us. So I invite you to just now become aware of the flow of your breathing. Just feel your breath as it moves in and out of your nasal passages. And when your mind wanders, which it will, just bring it back to focusing on your breathing. Now, as your breath flows in, mentally think the word still. And as your breath flows out, the word ness. It's the word stillness. Still on the inhalation, ness on the exhalation. Stillness. Let's do that for a minute or so. And again, when the mind wanders, bring it back to watching the breath and the affirmation, stillness. invite you to take a nice long deep breath and just rest in the stillness. Not watching the breathing, not speaking an affirmation. Just be with yourself for a few moments in the stillness. And that inner stillness within you is your true nature. There's peace there. There's joy there. There's calmness there. There is no fear there. There is no stress or strain or struggle. There is a sense of inner joy and well-being. And that's God in you. That's Spirit reflected in you. That's the image of God that the Bible talks about. Peace that passes all understanding. And that means that you're in tune with that divine flow within you. You're in tune with your spiritual essence, with the universe that's expressing as you. Now let's hold that prayer, that realization for our friends and family and loved ones as well. See them radiant and strong and healthy and protected and safe. And know that they are well. And we include all those on the Unity prayer list. Those of you who have submitted prayer requests through the Unity Center. We include all those in our consciousness, in our prayers. And we include every person on the planet. Every person. And we know that each person is a spiritual being, whole and complete. Every person is not their mind, is not their body, they're spiritual beings. Living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual law, which means that no matter what's going on in their lives, in the highest point of view, they're okay. They're okay. They're going to be okay. Even people who've passed on from illness or sickness, their spirit continues on. They continue in their eternal journey, and we bless them. And we bless all people with thoughts of health, healing, strength, harmony, love, peace, joy. We bless the planet, seeing the planet enfolded in light, the omnipresence of God. And we are grateful. And we bring our awareness now back to our body, back to the chair in which we're sitting, or the couch, or the floor. We wiggle our toes, our hands, hear the sounds around us. And we say, thank you, Father, Mother, God, Spirit, Source, Universe. And so it is. Amen. And now we have a special solo from Dennis Buck, Count Your Blessings.
If you're worried and you can't sleep, Just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. So if you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. So if you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
Thank you so much, Dennis. It's the first time I've ever seen you sing. That was great. Thank you. I came across a wonderful poem by the great poet Walt Whitman. He said, "Oh, while I live to be the ruler of life, not a slave, to meet life as a powerful conqueror, and nothing exterior to me shall ever take command of me." Isn't that a powerful thing? Would you like to be like that? Are you like that now? I bet you are in certain situations. I bet you are under certain conditions. But wouldn't it be great to know that at all times? In these times, there's a lot of stress for people, obviously. There's stress dealing with, of course, protecting ourselves from corona. There's the stress of being at home, maybe. You know, you're not used to working at home. The challenges of that, the uncertainties of the finances and how you're going to make ends meet, perhaps. You know, there's the challenges of raising kids at home and homeschooling. Well, we know there's a lot of stresses that happen in life. And especially during these times, a lot of unknowns. And the unknown is a big source of fear and stress. And we know the science, there's a lot of studies that have shown that chronic stress can really hurt us physically. It can lower our immune systems. And during these times of the coronavirus, you know, people are really going through a lot of stress. And the concern is, first of all, there are people who are already chronically stressed even before this coronavirus. Maybe they're taking a time out and they're actually maybe relaxing and getting some needed rest and reflection in their life, and maybe they'll find a balance. I hope they will. But some people, stress is just a habit. They were overstressed before, and they're gonna carry that into the present. They're already carrying it into the present. And maybe this situation is even fueling it more. Well, that's a unhealthy situation, because eventually the body gets overtaxed. The body is always seeking to balance itself. If the body's not getting enough oxygen, for instance, like an athlete who is really pushing him or herself, the body will do things to bring it back to homeostasis, to balance. More oxygen will go through the blood, and there'll just changes happen in the body to adapt. However, when it's created by our own minds, that's a different thing. When it's created by our own habits, the body eventually will start to break down. And when the body breaks down, people get sick. I read a story of a man who got a little nick on his face from shaving, and it became infected. He ended up having to receive special antibiotic treatment for that nick on his face. And he got upset. He was like, why? You don't understand why such a little thing could lead to such a serious condition. And the doctor explained to him, it's because you had worn yourself down. You had been overworking. You were in a job that wasn't meaningful to you. You had a lot of resistance to the work you were doing, and you were overworking and doing stuff that you didn't like doing, and it took its toll on your body. So my concern also is for people, maybe they weren't chronically stressed before this, but now they're in that state. And we're reading a lot of predictions about how long this could last. Maybe in 6 months, the economy and so on will be up and, made a lot of progress. Others are predicting longer. And there's a lot of uncertainties and a lot of unknowns. And my concern is that if you get into this high stress situation, you're going to create problems for yourself down the road. So let's understand that you and I, as Walt Whitman pointed out, can be a conqueror. Jesus, the Christ, said, in the world you have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Jesus figured out how to cope with stress. He figured out how to cope with pressures. Remember, he went through a lot of stuff. And by the way, the word pressure comes from the Latin tribulum. The word tribulation has to do with pressure. And we have pressures. Jesus had pressures. He had stress. The authorities, the church, the state were all after him, let alone all the challenges of wanting to minister to people and help people. There's always unknown challenges around that. And he said, I've overcome. I've learned how to cope with these pressures. And he went on to say that a person's enemies are those of his own household. In other words, you don't have an enemy in life unless you have enmity within yourself. Other people can hate you, but if you don't have enmity toward them, then you don't have an enemy as far as you're concerned. A person's enemies are of his own household. Here, we're not talking about our home, we're talking about our consciousness. House being your mind, your consciousness. Our enemies, our frustrations, our anger are in our consciousness. Maybe you've heard the saying, things may happen to you, things may happen around you, but what matters most is what happens inside of you, in your mind, in your consciousness. Your enemies will be of your own household. I know it's tough to understand because a lot of people, they don't understand that. They just react to life. And they've got a habit to expect bad things. They're going to worry no matter what. In fact, if there's nothing to worry about, they're going to worry about that. They're going to find something to worry about. I mean, we can probably see that habit in our own lives if we're honest. You know, one woman said, I believe that when there's tribulation, it's my duty to tribulate. They're going to find something. And hey, let's face it, the newspaper and the news media, it's a constant what if. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Constant predictions, right? Now that can be helpful if we're looking at, well, my company, I could get laid off. So, all right, that's realistic. What can we start to do to anticipate some of these things? That would be good planning, right? In fact, some studies show that having some anxiety can actually make you more detail-oriented and actually do some stuff, planning and so forth. That could be good. That's okay. We're talking about chronic stress. We're talking about a habitual way of being stressed out that can really do damage and lower your immune system. So, yeah, a lot of people are just in the habit of it and they expect the stress. And what we're saying today is you don't have to be in that mode. Yes, there's dangers in the world. There's tribulations. Yes. But we can come from a higher place. Let me explain something to you that's, I think will help you, it's helped me, in dealing with our brains and going to a higher spiritual level within us. Let me just explain that. I think, and I'm not going to make it complicated, I'm not going to make it long. Years ago in the 90s, a researcher pointed out that we have three brains. We have the reptilian brain, which is the oldest, and then the newer mammalian brain is on top of that, and then we have the neocortex, which is the human brain, which makes up 5/6 of the brain. Now we have all that going on. The reptilian brain is all about survival. You know, it's about fight, flight, and freeze. Back in ancient times, if a saber-toothed tiger jumped out on our path, we're going to either fight it, I don't know that that would be my option, or we're going to run from it, maybe not be a good option either, I don't know. Or we're going to freeze, we're going to pretend that we're invisible, like a little boy or girl who's afraid of monsters in their room, and so they're going to just be as quiet and still as possible so the monsters can't know that they're there. Fight, flight, or freeze. The reptilian brain, it just reacts, you know, and that can be helpful when if a car comes around the corner or something happens and you jump out of the way, okay, that can rescue you. But the problem is, in modern times, it's not as important. It's not as necessary unless there's real physical danger at hand. So Then the mammalian brain is a more sophisticated fight, flight, or freeze, and it has the amygdala, which again, it's what happens is, for instance, if you were to walk outside, if you have a yard, or you were in the park, and all of a sudden you saw a snake, you would jump back. That's what it does. It's to protect you. But that mammalian brain with the hippocampus can discern, can perceive a little better, and you go, oh, that's not a snake, that's a garden hose, or that's a stick. Then you laugh, right? So we have the reptilian, the mammalian, and then we have the neocortex. And the neocortex is where our reasoning ability is. It's where our creativity lies. It's where our empathy lies, our love. You know, if someone's in high stress and they're in the reptilian mode, they're going to fight, flight, or flee, or freeze. They're going to, in a relationship, they're going to attack, perhaps, because they're in that mode, or they're going to get real quiet, not say anything to you. See? But in the higher regions, neocortex, you can tap into love, empathy, and create a strategy for dealing with your situations. In the world, we have these situations. We have tribulation, as Jesus said. But how we react is of our own household. In your household, from an evolutionary standpoint, you got the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and you have higher regions of your brain that you can tap into. Now let's get a little more spiritual, because I know if you're listening to this, most likely you are a spiritual person, and I like to show how it all fits together. You know, the spiritual sages tell us that we connect with spirit, with the universe, with the super consciousness. You've heard of the conscious, subconscious. You connect with the super conscious level of mind through this point between the eyebrows. That's where the neocortex is. So spirit works through that part of our brains, and you connect with spirit through that part of your brain. Here's the point. We don't have to just live reacting from the lower regions of our brain. The survival. That had a place when there were saber-toothed tigers and bears and oh my and whatever else. But now, in these times, we want to respond from the higher regions of our brain and of our consciousness. Really, and you can do that. We can tune in to that spiritual dimension within us and be able to respond calmly from our reason, from our logic, from our creative self, rather than from our lower brain and our gut, our instinctual reptilian reaction. I know that might be a little uncomfortable for some of us to hear, but it's all in there, ladies and gentlemen. But so is your divinity. So is your spirituality. That's what we really are. And that's what we flow from. Let me give you an example. For instance, you might have seen the movie. I think it's called Sully with Tom Hanks. And it's based on the true story. You probably remember in 2009, the miracle on the Hudson. The Hudson River's right over here in my neighborhood. I love living near the Hudson. And in 2009, Sully was the captain of this commercial aircraft with, I think it was 150 passengers or so. And as soon as they took off, geese flew into the engines, and the engines were totally gone, and the aircraft started to lose height. And he had to make decisions. Out of all the variables, out of all the possibilities, he had to figure out how to land that aircraft safely and what to do about it. Well, he was afraid. Okay, we're not saying don't be stressed, don't be afraid, ever. There are certain situations where it's just automatic. I mean, that's how that brain works. Automatic, but then you can make a choice as to what you're going to do. And that's a key point here. You always have a choice. We have a choice. So when Sully's aircraft started to go down, he felt fear, but he tuned in to the higher regions of his consciousness. You could say the neocortex, the human brain. You could say superconsciousness, that spiritual level out of which those qualities flow into the brain. And he was able to make a plan, have a strategy. It's what pilots call deliberate calm. And he knew to fly that plane and land it in the frozen Hudson, where other boats happened to be, small boats. And everyone was saved on that flight. And they went and picked him up off of the plane. Great movie, by the way. That's what we're talking about. In the world, you have stresses. In the world, we have dangers. But be of good cheer. I've overcome the world, because it's in your own household that the stress comes. Yes, we have these outer things that are threatening, some of them. And we have all this stuff going on. We're not denying that. What we're saying, we don't have to remain in that keyed up, great, stressful place in our consciousness. You have higher regions in your consciousness. We can tune into those. You know, there was a man who said, one man said, "I'm bigger than anything that can happen to me. All these things in the world, sorrows, tragedies, misfortunes, suffering, chaos," we might add viruses and financial hardships and uncertainties and all the burdens of responsibility. All of these are outside my door, and I'm in the house. And I have the key. I'm in charge of my little household. I think that's an important realization. That all of these things in the world are happening out there. But your stress is determined by you and me. How we deal with these things. We hold the key to our own mind, our own household. And so we can determine how we're going to respond to what's going on. And I'm saying, let's learn from Sully to have deliberate calm. Let's not get into the habit and get stuck in that place of the lizard brain that's just in fear, flight. You know, that can be handy in certain situations, but in this situation, in modern times, it's important that we tune in to those higher levels of our consciousness, to tune in to logic and reason and creativity, and to be able to strategize about what the best way to handle the situation is. Tune into that calmness where you can then be free of the chronic stress, and you can be effective, and not only be effective, but to enjoy your life, even in the midst of the dangers, even in the midst of the challenges. I like the analogy of the bird that's on a limb, on a mountain, just right above the waterfall, or right near the waterfall, and this huge rush and powerful fall is coming down. But the bird is right there on the limb, singing. singing because the bird knows that it has wings and it's in control. And you and I have wings, and we're in control, or we can be. Man's enemies are those of his own household. You hold the key to your household. Everything else is happening outside of us, but we hold the key to how we're going to respond to it. And I'm saying, when you feel anxiety, when you feel fears and so on, realize that it's a trigger inside your brain, but you can tune into the higher regions of your brain and of your spirit, your spiritual nature. Take time at the beginning of each day to get still and quiet, to tune in to those higher dimensions of your being, to get centered in that divine flow inside of you, that place of calmness, that place of peace, so that you can then flow like the little bird who has danger right around it, but it's still singing. Here's another analogy for you. Henry Thoreau talks about, he says, I saw a delicate flower had grown up 2 feet high between the horse's feet and the wheel track. If you've been in the country, you can imagine tracks through the grass where the grass grows up. And in these days, he's talking about a horse and a wagon where the grass and the flowers grow up in between the wheels and the horse's feet. So he says, an inch more to the right or left had sealed its fate, or an inch higher. And yet it lived to flourish and never knew the danger it incurred. It didn't borrow trouble or invite on evil fate by apprehending it. So that's what we're saying. Let's live from a place, from a centeredness in our spirit as much as we can by taking time, starting at the beginning of the day, to get centered in that higher regions of ourselves. And then I encourage you to take time in between activities that you do during the day to get still and quiet, to tune in to that non-stressful place inside of you so that you can have deliberate calm. Tune into that place within you where you can be effective, where you can deal with what's facing you. And you can be in tune with the flow of God inside of you and trust that activity, that spirit that is inside of you. Remember, your house is your consciousness. And you can be the conqueror of what's going on inside of you. You can be in control. You can be the master of yourself. And I think in any time, especially in challenging times, this is a time where we can really grow. We can really know ourselves, and we can really make some progress. We might not be perfect at it. We're not going to be perfect at it. We're gonna fail. We're gonna get fearful. We're gonna get anxious or worried or whatever, or frustrated. That's okay. But remember, it's your household. You hold the key. You can go back and you can get calm, you can get still, and then respond from the higher regions of your consciousness. The Bible tells us, greater is the spirit that is within you than that which is in the world. Namaste. I invite you to join me now for the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Special thank you to you for attending this broadcast, this live stream, and also to Dennis Buck, our principal accompanist, who sang today for the first time. That was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I see you going forth today and each day, tuning in to that highest region of your brain and of your consciousness. What the yogi sages call the spiritual eye, that Christ center, that God center in you, the neocortex. You are greater than anything that can happen in this world. And you have the ability to be the conqueror. And I see you growing and unfolding and being that conqueror in your life so that you can truly cope with the pressures, cope with the stresses of these times, because greater is something in you than in the world. And so it is. Amen. I invite you to now join us in singing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth."
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step